sometimes we think, Tantra, that sounds exciting. That is very unfortunate. It's a big, big mistake. To practice Tantra, the compassion needs to be much stronger than to practice the general path, which we call Sutra or Paramitayana. Of course, you need strong compassion, whatever your practice, or Dharma, whether it's Hinayana or Mahayana, you need strong compassion. But to practice Tantra, and in particular highest yoga Tantra, you need unbearable compassion. Otherwise, it just becomes, I don't even want to say what it becomes, but something really not right. So please, those of you who either are practicing or aspire to practice Tantra, please don't turn away from the challenge of compassion. One or two people explained yesterday that it's painful. Yes, there is pain, but compared to the pain of those for whom one has compassion, it's nothing. And the pain, as His Holiness Dalai Lama has explained, is just temporary, because it gives way to the opposite. It gives way to incredible joy and positive feeling, because compassion actually nourishes us, and actually it uplifts us to rise to the positive work of benefiting others. Whether we can do it practically right now, by going and actually doing something immediate, or whether it's simply building our motivation for the practice, so that in future we will be able to benefit. So this terrible culture of turning away from the suffering of others, which is due to a sense of powerlessness, to be honest. That is why most people turn away. Not because they're not compassionate. Everybody has compassion. But they feel overwhelmed. I can't do anything. It's too terrible. As practitioners, particularly if you're practicing Tantra or wish to do so, aspire to do so, but actually, in general, as a practitioner of Mahayana, please don't turn away. Feed your heart. Feed your heart, even though temporarily it's painful. Okay? It is difficult. I'm not denying it. The world is very, very difficult. But that's why we're needed. And really, that is why we're here, which we discussed yesterday. Why am I here? That is why we're here. It's a kind of training. It's a training to be able to be a practitioner of compassion. Okay. So this talk, which I'm going to try to give now, is just giving this sort of Buddhist technical explanation for all these things that are happening. is the volume too much?
No, it's alright. I just.
Yeah, okay, fine. Okay, so let's begin with karma. Karma is kind of one of the main causes of suffering. And karma, as we studied yesterday, is driving these problems, not only of individuals but also of the world. The environmental problems and also the social problems, which is where we're going to go more today. And so there's a cause. There are causes for what is happening. Whatever is happening. Whatever is happening. There are causes in previous action. Actions have consequences. There are many who deny the cause and effect of actions, especially those who are doing things which are actually harmful and negative, like what we call non-virtuous actions. When people are consciously creating non-virtuous actions, one of the stories they tell themselves is, there are no consequences. Certainly no consequences to me. That's the story. It helps them to be able to do those things. Or even thinking, well, if there are consequences, it'll benefit me. People, they want happiness, but they create the causes of suffering. That is one of the things that is taught by Shantideva in the Bodhicharyavatara. They seek happiness, but they run towards suffering. I mean, I say they. Me too, I'm sorry to say. Now, the karma comes from the intention, and the intention that is non-virtuous is coming from the afflictive emotions, such as the desire and the hatred and the pride. Pride is a very big one, actually. You just think, when you arrive in a group, including people you don't know, but also including people you know, how much of your mental time is taken with comparing yourself to each person? I hope none, but I suspect at least some. Comparing against all kinds of metrics that you consider important. Am I more attractive or less attractive than this person? Am I more intelligent or less intelligent than this person? And now we're in a Buddhist community. Am I a better practitioner or a worse practitioner than this person? Okay. And in some circumstances, I don't know about you guys, am I wealthier or less wealthy than this person? Is my family more or less whatever you think? Okay, all these issues. And all that feeds into two very strong afflictive emotions. One is pride, and the other is jealousy. And pride and jealousy are responsible for so many divisions between people. And it's good to recognize, I have these. I have pride and jealousy. Not to feel, oh, I must beat myself up, or feel guilty, or some crap like that. Just to think, yeah, I'm in samsara, my mind is still afflicted, and the consequence of this, I create karma. I create non-virtue. You don't have to say something to communicate to somebody else you feel superior to them. Just a look. You don't even have to give a look, just a vibration. Because we are communicating all the time, heart to heart. In truth, you can't hide anything. Because at some level, it's communicating. And jealousy too. And it manifests in many ways. It can manifest as adoration. Oh, you're so wonderful. And you maybe feel that. But underneath that is a kind of jealousy. It's very difficult to become a person who is okay to be who she is or who he is. It's very difficult. But the Dharma can help you. It can lead you towards that position, and eventually to reach it, where you just feel okay. You accept the way you are, the way others are, and feel comfortable. So affliction and karma is coming from the affliction. These create the consequences of the suffering. Those seeds or imprints or potentials stay with the mind stream and ripen in future, either in this life or in a future life. Of course, there are many good seeds, good potentials. Everybody in this room is relatively wealthy. This is because you are generous. Really, rejoice. This isn't a miserable story, only. It is partly, but it's also a happy story. I created so many good causes for what is happening now. Yeah. So maybe looking at the positive side, I have friends. Why? Because I practice patience, and the karmic result is that I'm attractive to others. It doesn't mean I'm the most beautiful person in the world. It just means people are drawn to me. They like me, reasonably. Not everybody likes me. But the reason is because I practiced patience in the past. In other words, I held back from being angry. Just think about it. An angry person is not liked. A kind person is liked. It's very simple, isn't it, karma? What you do comes back. It's simple. It's obvious. It's not what we call, it's not rocket science. It's kind of obvious. What you do comes back. You send out some message, and it comes back to you. Okay. And as I mentioned yesterday, the Buddhist understanding is that there are 6 realms of cyclic existence, and because of our karma, we can be reborn in any of those 6. And we don't know what will come first, tonight or our next rebirth. And our next rebirth will be conditioned by the mind that we die with. Although we have many imprints, good, bad, middle, the one that will throw us into the next life is the one that is dominant in our mind as we die. because that will ripen what's called the throwing karma to put us into that particular situation. And we have the potential for all 6 realms right now. As well, I should mention, we also have the potential for complete enlightenment. But I don't think we're going to throw ourselves karmically into complete enlightenment at our death. Maybe 1 or 2 of you are very high practitioners and you can do that. But generally, no, we're going to probably stay in psychic existence. But where we will be next time will depend on the state of mind with which we die. So it's good to cultivate a positive, virtuous mind all the time, because we never know when death will come. And a positive, virtuous mind is simply a mind which is kind, compassionate, patient, generous, wise, in other words, accepting impermanence to some extent, as best we can, understanding emptiness, that things do not exist inherently, all those kind of things. Very good mind to generally cultivate, and then we've no need to be afraid of death, because naturally we will be able to continue. And if we sustain a positive relationship with the Dharma, we will meet the Dharma again. In other words, feeling open to the Dharma, feeling a general sort of positive relationship to the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, that kind of thing. If we have a guru, maintaining a pure relationship, a pure view of our guru, those kind of things are going to make sure that in the next life we will meet the Dharma again and continue our work. And if you think about it, what is our work? Our work is simply to benefit others as best we can. And not, if we can't benefit them, at least not harm them. That is our work. Could we wait? Sorry, I want to flow a bit, and then I will invite questions. Now, the Buddha taught the 12 links of dependent origination, and it begins with ignorance. This means seeing things the opposite of how they are. For example, thinking that virtue is non-virtue, or thinking that non-virtue is virtue. That is an example of seeing things the opposite of how they are. So there are many people who think that destroying somebody else is a good thing. That is an example of ignorance. But also the ignorance of misconceiving the nature of things. To really believe that things exist inherently, and also to grasp things as permanent, which are impermanent. That ignorance is the first link, and the second link is karmic formations. As I just explained, the karmic formations arise because from ignorance is the afflictive emotions which create the karma. And those karmic formations means the potentials. And those potentials reside with the consciousness, which is the third link. And the consciousness is flowing on towards our death. And when we come into the next life, it's the fourth link, which is name and form, which means the mind and the body of the next life. And then from that comes the 6 sources, which is the 6 senses of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and the mental consciousness. The 6 sources also implies their objects. And these things are already developed in the womb. So the new life begins with the name and form, the beginning of the mind and body, and then the 6 sources develop. And then as we emerge from the womb comes the next link, which is contact. You could say contact begins within the womb, but we normally use that one to refer to what happens when we first emerge into life and we make this massive contact with our senses, with the outside world. Have a very, very strong impact. And then contact leads to feeling. Either we enjoy the contact, or we don't enjoy the contact, or in some cases it's neutral. It's neither one nor the other. And feeling is the source, or the link that leads to the next one, which is craving. Craving means wanting more of what we enjoy, or wanting to be separated from what we don't like. And if you think about your life, it's dominated by craving. How much our time do we spend trying to get what we want and push away what we don't like? For example, it's a little bit cold today. How many of you have actually made quite a lot of effort to get more warmth and to remove yourselves from cold? It's kind of natural. You'd say, oh, that's just biological. It is biological, but the mind is also involved in that. And the mind can relate to that in a number of ways. It can be quite matter of fact and say, oh yeah, okay, I'll just put an extra layer on. Or the mind can go crazy. Say, oh, it's terribly cold, what am I going to do, poor me? And the whole story builds up. Okay? And it's the same with the craving for warmth. Oh, where's there some heat? There's no fire in here. Oh, please, can we switch the heating on? Oh, no. A whole sort of story develops. And if you think about it, most of our life is involved with what we call attachment or attraction or aversion, pushing away. It's the story of our life. From midnight to midnight, including in our dreams, actually. Okay, so craving is quite a crucial one, and craving leads to grasping. The example given is that craving would look at the fruit on the tree and think, that's nice. But grasping would actually take the fruit from the tree. And that is what is happening in all our life. It starts off with a craving, and the grasping is when we actually do something about it, and either get it or reject it, so it goes in both directions. And then from grasping comes the link, the 10th link, which is called existence or becoming, and this refers to the mind at the time of death. Unfortunately, the mind at the time of death tends to be dominated by grasping. Grasping. For example, there's one funny story actually. There was a yogi who had really developed his mind to a very high level in life. And at the time of his death, he looked out the window and he saw this herd of elephants. And he thought, oh, those elephants are so peaceful. And then he was reborn as an elephant. So his mind at the time of death was dominated by the grasping. And that was that link, the 10th link, is called existence, because it conditions the next existence. Or sometimes it's called becoming, which is quite good because it's about becoming.
But she was so happy. Being an elephant.
Absolutely, yeah. But also think about how it would be if you died in a car crash. And at the time of your death, you felt angry towards the other driver. This could happen, couldn't it? because we're not very well in control of our mind and our anger. And so if we died with a mind of anger, what's going to happen? I'm sorry to say, but it's not very good. It's not very good to die with a mind of anger, because it throws you into the lower realms. So it's good if we start training now not to get angry with other drivers as a habit.
In Israel, it's a good practice.
It's a necessary.
Don't worry, I'm driving yet.
We can say like the Tibetan, Kum Chok Sum.
Okay. So that's the 10th. The 11th one is called birth. So that's what comes as a result of the 10th one. And the 12th one is called aging and death, which comes as a result of birth. And then the death actually creates the cause of the ignorance of the next life. So it begins again, and it goes round. And all sentient beings are caught up in this circle. There's a picture of this on the back wall there. It's called the Wheel of Life, and the outside rim has 12 pictures. And the one at the top is ignorance, and gradually they go around all 12. And then inside that circle, you will see the pictures of the 6 realms. And inside the picture of the 6 realms, you will see a picture of those who are going to the lower realms because of the non-virtue, and those which are ascending to the higher realms because of the virtue. And right in the center, you will see 3 creatures, a pig, a rooster, and a snake. And each one has the tail of the other one in its mouth. And they're going round and round and round in the middle. And they represent, the pig is ignorance. And the reason for that is because a pig just eats and sleeps and lies in the mud and never thinks that it's going to be slaughtered. That is ignorance. Then the rooster is very proud of its feathers, so it's attachment. And the snake is can be quite vicious if you anger it, so it's anger. And so anger, attachment, and ignorance are the 3 poisons, and they're at the center of this whole wheel of life. And the whole wheel is in the jaws of the Lord of Death. And that's because we are always in the jaws of the Lord of Death, every one of us. And the problem is that we don't think about it. We're looking out. We're not noticing these fangs about to close on us. And if we were, we might be a little bit more careful. So this is why all these teachings of the Buddha are very, very important. And what I'm telling here is the basic teachings of the Buddha. You'll find this in all the Buddhist traditions, Theravada, Japanese Buddhism, Chinese Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism. It's the same. And these 12 links have been going round for every single sentient being. We say since beginningless time, which is a difficult phrase, because there is no beginning to beginningless time. That is kind of hard for us to understand. The concept of having no beginning is very hard to understand. But actually, it's harder, logically, to understand the beginning. Because what caused that? Whatever caused it was the beginning. And then, well, what caused that? Well, so beginninglessness is the only logical way to understand existence and also the mind. Because the mind is caused by the mind, just as matter is caused by matter. Things are caused by something of a similar nature, in the way that an apple seed is the cause of an apple tree. Clay is the cause of a pot. The main cause, we call it the substantial cause. The other things are helping it to happen. So when you think in this kind of logic, beginningless time is the only logical conclusion. And beginningless mind is the logical conclusion. Okay. Now, that means that when we think compassionately, it's even more unbearable. Because what we see in the world today is not just present suffering, it's causes of future suffering. It's happening everywhere. And it's so heavy. It's just dreadful. The kind of things people are doing, including oneself. The Dharma does give us the key, because ignorance, which is the first link, can be overcome by wisdom. And where there is no ignorance, there are no karmic formations. And where there are no karmic formations, there is no consciousness leading to the next life. And where there's no consciousness of that kind, there's no name and form, and so on, and so on, and so on. So, the Buddha didn't just teach suffering and the cause of suffering. The Buddha also taught cessation and the path to cessation. But what is difficult is to think of the countless sentient beings in the cycle of existence who don't know the Dharma, who don't have access, or who, let's say, don't have the karmic cause to meet with the teachings. That is really incredibly sad. It's awful, isn't it? That to be caught up in this wheel of life, going round and round and round, and be completely in darkness about how to get out of that. In other words, to be without a reliable refuge. A reliable refuge, the actual refuge is the Dharma. The Dharma is the medicine for all this. And then the Buddha is the doctor who prescribes the medicine, and the Sangha are the nurses who help us to take the medicine. But the actual cure, or the actual medicine, is the Dharma. So therefore, all beings need reliable refuge, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. And how are they going to get it? Only by meeting the teachings, by meeting the Buddha who teaches, or the teachings of the Buddha, through the Sangha, being helped by the Sangha to understand the Dharma. And who's going to do that? We are. That is our job. That is our task. That is what we have to do. We have to become a reliable refuge. You know what that means? It means somebody that, when people are seeking to overcome their suffering, because it's so painful for them, they can turn to you and they will get help that actually works. That's what people need. And we must become the reliable refuge that they can turn to. That is our task. That is what we should devote all our life to. It doesn't mean we can't enjoy our breakfast, but we should enjoy our breakfast as part of our practice. By offering it, by transforming it, by being mindful of what is happening, and that goes for everything in life. It doesn't mean you can't enjoy everything, but don't use the enjoyment in order to abstract yourself away from reality. That's not pleasure, actually. That's That's stupidity. That's the cockerel. Look at me. I'm so happy. Donald Trump. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that.
It's
But
okay.
I think you know what I mean. There's a kind of wonderful guy sort of mentality going on, or wonderful lady. I mean, it doesn't matter which gender. There's a terrible kind of culture of, look at me, aren't I great? That's not happiness. That's stupidity. Okay. So the path starts with the bodhicitta, which is wishing to become a reliable refuge, in other words, wishing to become enlightened for the sake of others, and then practicing generosity, ethics, patience, effort, concentration, and wisdom, the 6 perfections. And if one can't bear to wait 3 countless eons because sentient beings are suffering so much, then Vajrayana is the quick path, but only on the basis of this very powerful compassion. So to generate bodhicitta, we need to practice the meditations on bodhicitta. So that's what we're going to do now.
So connect to the meditation we did first on compassion and the talk that Andy's just given. And remember the deepest purpose for being here. It's the wish to attain the mind of enlightenment for the benefit of others. And for that reason, we're going to take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. The Buddha that taught the method, the Dharma, and the Arya Bodhisattvas who've already gone before us to attain this state of understanding emptiness conjoined with bodhicitta. That we're going to rely on them to help us in our journey towards enlightenment. And for that reason we go to refuge with them. So if we those that wish to recite, recite. Those that wish to listen, listen.
Sangye chödam sokhi chögnam la jangchu badu dagi kyam suchi dagi chönyen ki pesmanang ki dola penche sangye du parashog Sangye chödam sokhi chögnam la jangchu badu dagi kyam suchi dagi chönyen ki pesmanang ki Dola penche sangye du parashog Sangye chodan soki chognam la Jangchu badu dagni kyam suchi Dagi chenyen ki peso namgi Dola penche sangye du parashog.
So as Andy explained earlier, this is one of the methods, one of the bodhicitta meditation methods for attaining enlightenment for the benefit of others. It's called the 6 cause and effect meditation. And it starts with a concept that some people naturally relate to and others struggle a little bit. because it starts off with really understanding that all living beings have been our mother in the past. And that's because we've had beginningless lifetimes. So if for any reason this isn't a concept you can embrace right now, and it's the basis of this meditation, can I ask you to, in a way, put away whether or not you can take it literally or not to one side, but really think of the value of recognizing that all living beings could have been my mother, as if they have been my mother. And the other difficulty that sometimes comes up is that sometimes people in this life have had a mother that is particularly problematic because of her own issues. She may not have been there for us in the idealized mother way, but nevertheless we can recognize that she gave us life. And there may have been other people that fulfill that role of nurturing us and helping us grow up. So don't get stuck on the detail of how you construe what's happened to you up till now. But also, it's something we can work on, that even if we've had a difficult experience this lifetime with a mother or a close parent or a carer, that actually we can still increase our understanding and compassion for that person. And we can also look a bit deeper into what we have received from them. Life being the first step, but there are usually many other things that have come to us, and even some of our strengths have come out of adversity. So please go into the meditation with that kind of open mind. So just think for a moment that all living beings have been my mother, or we could say parent or carer. It's quite a radical idea because we are used to dividing people into those we know, don't like, have the same ideas as us, don't have the same ideas, are the same gender, are the same race, colour, religion. You know, we set up lots of divisions, and this is a totally equalising attitude to all living beings. And then think about your particular mother or carer in this lifetime, and think what they did give you, how kind they were to you. If they had not gone through the difficulties of pregnancy, labour, maybe some complications afterwards, you wouldn't be here. And certainly as a small baby, you come out of the womb without any clothes, without any of your needs met. Everything that you need initially is dependent on others providing that for you. And your main carer is the person that has done all that. Being up in the night, cleaning up every time you threw up or made a poop. You were so fragile, but they took care of you. So this is the second step, is recognizing the kindness. So much of your understanding of the world came about through your first teacher, your carer. So many of the things that we just take for granted, well, that's what you would expect a parent or carer to do. But actually think about it. They did that for you. They put their own needs to the back. You can see from an adult position just how demanding being a parent is. Not just in those early stages, but it's ongoing. So think extensively about this kindness. And then allow the next step, the third step, to evolve from this feeling. You'll know now that when someone has shown you kindness, you instinctively would like to do something for them. It just comes naturally. So you can think that just naturally, if all living beings have been like the carer that I've experienced now in this life, and sacrifice themselves for my life in some way, then actually I just want to give back. So there's no distinction ultimately between the mother or carer of this life and all our previous lives. So this instinctive feeling needs to come to all living beings as we recognize their kindness. And as we think about this, our hearts should open even further. Again, it's a natural progression into a feeling of love. And our love is wanting the other to be happy and experience the causes of happiness. It's not something that we want for ourselves, in that sometimes our love in an ordinary sense gets a bit mixed up with our own needs, our own wishes. So this is genuinely a feeling towards the other. Wanting our mother of this lifetime and all our lifetimes, all living beings, to be happy, and to remain so, so that they create the causes for that. And then again, naturally, we feel that we do not want them to experience suffering or create any causes for suffering. But this is totally universal. We're not making distinctions between people or beings. Whether they're human, animal or otherwise. Whether we know them or don't know them, like them or don't like them. Whatever colour, creed, race, culture they come from. They've all been our mothers. They have all been kind, and we all wish to repay that kindness. So out of this feeling of love and then compassion, we really wish them free of all suffering. Which takes us to the next step, the incredible wish, the incredible thought that in order to really remove their suffering, in not just a mundane way or a short-term way, the only way I can really do this is by attaining enlightenment. So I need to do this for them. So it's a resolve. I will do this. I will take this universal responsibility to attain enlightenment for the benefit of others. And now you can relax your concentration, but try and maintain the energy of this morning, particularly of compassion and bodhicitta.